Now, as most of you know, we've recently got some exciting news. Make no doubt about it, 100%, no reaching here. Joey Badass dished out some shots to Kendrick. People are trying to paint it like he didn't take shots at Kendrick, but he did. He clearly wants to smoke. He made it pretty obvious outside of saying his name. When I first listened to Joey's 1999 mixtape back in 2012, it felt like stepping into a time machine and being transported back to the golden era of 90s East Coast hip-hop.
I rhyme stone, drop jewels and bright lines, sight down, some slight close eyes, some slight so by.
Where did this guy come from? Like, who is this guy? Then I learned that this wasn't even an adult. The guy that we were hearing over beats that sounded like they were perfectly crafted for Nas in 94 was only 17 years old. 17 years old. If you were a fan of the golden era, you probably respected this young kid's approach, as we were now in a time where 808s dominated the radio. The days of jazzy boom bap sounding hip-hop wasn't something that we heard from too many newcomers. Now, we had a few people still doing it, but for the most part, hip-hop had, evolved past those days.
Logically, I define astronomy. I said I live on clown infinity, spitting hot meteorology.
On his Facebook profile, he had written, "Born and died in 95. He's an old soul. However, just 4 months after his first big release, a rising star from the West Coast named Kendrick Lamar released his classic album, Good Kid, Mad City.
Cause every basket was a reaction or a reminder that we was just moving backwards.
Kendrick achieved what many underground rappers struggle to do. He created a lyrically rich concept album about growing up in Compton that resonated globally. And interestingly enough, Kendrick starts out that album telling the story of a 17-year-old Kendrick.
17 with nothing but pussy stuck on my mental. My motive was rather sinful. What you trying to get into?
Realistically speaking, Joey Badass and Kendrick are more alike than they are different. They both eat, live, and breathe hip-hop. They both represent their respective coast. They both pay immense homage to the people that came before them. They were both heavily praised by the OGs when they came in. Both lyrically gifted, both great storytellers, both conscious, not afraid to speak on social issues. Both were members of groups with like-minded values. But most importantly, they both put immense stock into hip-hop's most fundamental rule: you got to be original. So it shouldn't be a shocker to anyone that these guys both seem to appreciate each other's work. It was only a matter of time before these guys would cross paths in some way, and fortunately for us, it would happen on wax, as they both shared verses on A$AP Rocky's One Train.
I roll past and I play y'all like doo-doo. I hate y'all. And I'm thinking about signing to the rock.
The whole idea behind this record for Rocky was to find all the best upcoming spitters and put them all on one track.
Confetti torches, drinking Henny like I'm Kenny Lofton.
This track was like a melting pot of styles because you had dudes from the East, dudes from the West, dudes from the South. You had a couple white guys in the mix. And it was just 2 weeks later where we would find out that the young Joey Badass wasn't afraid to jump into the ring, as he was engulfed in a little back and forth with none other than Lil B.
Niggas wanna lie and be faking like they do.
I got an issue with this little bitch shit, so I'm a pitbull. No lyrical missiles that won't miss you.
Now, I'm not going to touch on this battle in this video, but what I will say is this made as much sense stylistically as Drake versus Kendrick. I only wanted to highlight this because at 17 years old, we already saw that this kid was clearly not afraid to battle. In fact, he seemed to embrace it regardless of the competitor. He was gonna walk the walk. Now at this point, Kendrick is that guy. The dude was on fire. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a superstar. And it was backstage at his show in New York, where I believe he met Joey for the first time. And before Kendrick went on stage that night, he gave Joey Badass an amazing shout out in an interview.
I feel like hip hop is going back, to that mode where people are actually challenging themselves and taking it back to the origins and the essence of it. Who I'm listening to right now, Joey Badass.
Okay.
Yeah, man. That dude is crazy.
And this was really dope for Kendrick to do this in Joey City. This was a huge cosign for this young kid.
Just to meet them at that early age, it was super motivation. It just made me go hard, like, damn.
And it wasn't long after where Kendrick showed everyone that he wasn't shying away from being competitive either.
Who the fuck y'all thought it's supposed to be?
6 months after that Hot 97 interview, Kendrick would tip the game upside down with his Control verse and a lot of MCs responded with a verse of their own, and they did that mostly for one of three reasons. One, a lot of people from New York, they didn't like it when Kendrick said he was the king of New York.
I'm Machiavelli's offspring, I'm the king of New York, king of the coast, one hand I juggle them both.
Two, out of all the people that Kendrick mentioned, some people felt slighted that he didn't mention them.
And as it played, I heard him say I wasn't mentioned with y'all. Joel started it, only right I finished the job.
Believe it or not, Joe Budden is in my top 10. I've been a fan of his music for a very, very long time. And in 2025, you will be seeing some breakdowns of his music on this channel. And lastly, some dudes just joined in just because they were inspired to rap and be competitive.
Tired of hearing all them jewelry and car raps, the making it rain and buying out the ball raps. I got hype when I heard that Kendrick Lamar rap.
And when it comes to these three reasons, Joey definitely checked all the boxes, and 9 days after Control, he dropped Columinati Part 2. But first, we got to discuss the original Columinati. Columinati was a track from Joey's 1999 mixtape, which featured Capital Steez, and the most obvious reference is the title itself, where he's paying homage to Tupac's Don Columinati, The 7 Day Theory.
Mob deep, wonder why nigga blow them out. Next time grown folks talking, nigga close your mouth.
As a kid, I got totally obsessed with this shit. At like 12, 13 years old, I found this website that was dedicated to like Tupac conspiracy theories and this whole 7 day thing, and it just like warped my brain.
7 + 7, and this is 7, and that date is 7, and this is 7, and Tupac is on an island, and Suge killed Tupac.
So on the original Columinati track, Joey is clearly paying homage to Pac in the title, and he also had a few bars to back this up.
Young cop killer, I'm that ill, so Doc Will give me 2 shots for Tupac killer.
So due to the fact that Kendrick referenced Machiavelli while claiming to be the king of New York, it was fitting for Joey to respond with the Part 2 Columinati, as Pac wasn't just a West Coast icon, but he was Kendrick's biggest influence.
Columinati, all through your body, like a 12 gauge Sade.
So right off rip, Joey makes a reference to Tupac's Hail Mary, another one of my all-time favorites from Pac.
Columinati, all through your body.
And then there's the Eminem version of this, which I vividly remember having on like a knockoff iPod back in the day.
Words being quoted in the source, stealing pot shit like he just wrote it.
Keep in mind, this track dropped in 2003, which was my era.
Rock back blind, I hit you up right now. The block's full, keep old like Babylon.
Right now, I'm somewhere pushing up the street with 10 dudes. We're 10 deep. We're getting in all kinds of trouble. I got the Radio Shack headphones on, and who knows what I'm listening to, because look at what we had. We had Speaker Box, the Black Album, trap music, Get Rich or Die Trying, Beg for Mercy, Diplomatic Immunity, Philly Freeway, Cheers, Street Dreams. One of my favorite projects from that year was 8 Ball and MJG's Living Legends. That I played like crazy. Then we had the mixtapes where K-Slay was going crazy, Who Kid was going crazy, Clue was going crazy, Green Lantern was pumping them out. Then I went through this massive Swisha House phase, Project Pat, 3-6 Mafia. Like this is literally all we fucking did. The worst part about it was you'd think that you found a tape and you wait like a long ass time for it to download, only to find out it wouldn't be it. It'd be like Russian amateur porn or some shit, right? But I was actually writing diss tracks on my own long before that, and I was uploading them online.
I'm ripping off tracks like on your man's best night. I'ma win this battle against these transvestites. 30 on 1 with your clan's best fight.
They beat the fuck out of me, actually, those kids. And I made this diss record. That's why I had the 30 on 1 is your clan's best fight, is because they actually did fuck me up. And look, I know people can say whatever they want about me and the channel, but at the end of the day, they don't know me. They don't really know anything about me, and that is partially my fault because I haven't really put much of myself into my content. So my goal in 2025 is really to show people who I actually am, like who the person is behind this channel, because hip-hop is a huge part of who I am. I'm 36 years old. I'm almost 40.
Be more Pacific next time you're shouting out amigo.
So keep in mind what I just mentioned. Some MCs felt overlooked when Kendrick didn't name drop them, and this is essentially what Joey is pointing out here. And he really starts putting his pen on display, really showing that he could rap.
I am not the star, in fact I plan it all. Fuck with the media, right bitch, this is a fireball. Please don't leave your comment if you are not up to par. No names putting you in the verse, that's too far.
So this is a dope little scheme about outer space. Planet, planet, meteorite, meteorite, firebar, fireball, comet, comet, universe, universe.
No escaping, you in the swimming pool of champagne. You set yourself up for that one, man. The king in New York, ha, we ain't just gonna let that one hang.
So I actually look at this line completely different from anything else that you might have heard. First and most obvious, Joey is making a reference to swimming pools from Good Kid, Mad City, but notice his usage of the words no escaping. Now remember, Good Kid, Mad City, thematically, is about Kendrick trying to escape the influence of growing up in Compton. It all makes a lot more sense when Joey says, the king of New York, we ain't gonna let that one hang, which I believe is in reference to Kendrick growing up and hanging around a bunch of gang members in Compton, but never being a full-on member himself.
No escaping, we ain't just gonna let that one hang.
Good Kid, Mad City reference, no escaping, we're not gonna let that one hang. Now this next one could be a reach, but I feel there might be a play on the word champagne. Sham meaning fake or false, pain meaning physical pain. It's also interesting how he places Kendrick in a swimming pool of champagne, which is often looked at as something more luxurious, playing into the narrative that Kendrick is swimming in fake pain.
You in the swimming pool of champagne.
Like I said, man, it could be a reach, but let me know in the comments.
That I hear no lyrical style come near me. How they gon' try to compare me to what's clearly, barely, not nearly as rare as me.
So some really nice wordplay here, and he believes that he's better than Kendrick, and he's supposed to. He's up to the challenge.
Last nigga got dethroned and you ain't from my zone. The rest of the real niggas is dead and gone.
Joey then appears to make reference to his battle with Lil B, another California native, stating that he pretty much demolished one West Coast dude already, and that any worthy competitor is already dead.
But fuck it, I'm Biggie, I'm L, I'm Pun. I'm Godson, I'm Pac, Guru, all in one.
He then references a bunch of legends, claiming he's an extension of all of them, and notice how he switches his tone here, somewhat mimicking Kendrick's aggressive delivery from Control.
I got all these rap niggas fucking fearing me. Heard they was looking for war, but ain't declaring me.
So again, Joey's talking about how Kendrick never mentioned him on that verse, and claims he's ducking that smoke because he's afraid of him.
I'm the real king fella here, you more like Prince of Bel-Air.
Joey makes it clear that he's the real king of New York, and claims Kendrick is more like the Prince of Bel-Air. This is a pretty clever reference given the fact that Will Smith's character was from Philly, the East Coast, and was forced to move to LA when he found himself in trouble. However, this line is layered and people miss this entirely, as Kendrick's family relocated from Chicago to California due to his father's affiliation with the Gangster Disciples. There's also the play on a prince being a son to a king. Keep in mind, this kid is only 17 years old right now. He's coming in with a lot of confidence.
If you don't fuck with cinematic, stand still. My life's a movie on the rail. You can get shot with your hands on the wheels.
So Joey has a really dope cinematography theme going on here. We see words like cinematic, stand still, where a still is a term used in photography for a photo. We also see the term movie paired with the term reel, which is in reference to a reel in film. Then he says you could get shot, meaning to shoot a scene, and when he says hands on the wheel, he is referring to the wheel that the film is attached to. And he really is rapping at a high level, as Cinematic is a record label that he was signed to. Kendrick's label mate Schoolboy Q had a track called Hands on the Wheel, which also plays off Good Kid, Mad City, where Kendrick is driving his family van, and there is indeed a still image of Kendrick on the original cover of Good Kid, Mad City. He ends it off by saying that Kendrick will get shot with his pants at his heels, and of course I got something else that nobody seemed to notice, but I guess they aren't familiar with Kendrick's opening track on Good Kid, Mad City.
Grabbed my mama keys, hopped in the car, then the old bar. So now I'm down Rosecrans in the caravan. I'm thinking about that sex, thinking about her thighs or maybe kissing on her neck.
So it's here where we have a 17-year-old Kendrick with his hands on the wheel of his family van, driving to meet a girl in hopes of getting laid. In saying all that, I hope I don't need to explain why Kendrick would have his pants at his heels.
I retired that level of it, and now you have to deal with a brother like Joey, which is a 45 Magnum with a knife at the tip.
He ends off the track with one of Brooklyn's finest, Buckshot, where he's given Joey props. Because I come from skateboard culture, I caught on the Black Moon like at a really young age because a lot of their music was featured in skate videos.
That skateboarding in particular was just like, fuck y'all, we're gonna do our own thing. They decided what the soundtrack to their actual skate videos and what their actual life was.
And that's all facts. I'm actually planning on doing a video on the intersection of hip-hop culture and skateboard culture. It was only a matter of time before these two things intersected and connected. However, Joey would make it clear that this was all for the sport and being competitive in hip-hop.
Kendrick, that's the homie and shit, like, you know? Competitive sport, that's what hip-hop is about. So, nothing but hip-hop, like, you know?
And there's also this tweet that he posted after he put the track out. How can y'all think I'm hating on Kendrick right now? Much respect to him for bodying everybody. This day marks a new rap game, know that. So again, it was all for the sport, and to validate this even further, Joey would join Ab Soul, Kendrick's TDE label mate, for the Smokers Club tour.
I was pretty turned up, man. Like, I've loved my time on this tour, yo.
And they've done music together before, even in recent years. Like, I actually think they're friends.
Oh, and with Solo, that's my soul brother. You know what I mean? Like, he got 47 tatted. Like, that's for life. That's brother for life.
I'm part of the 4-7 gang. Shout out to the pro era, man, Joey.
Joey would then also make it clear that he really appreciated Kendrick's shout out from that Hot 97 interview, as he included that segment in his music video for Hilary Swank.
Worldwide and physically.
What I'm listening to right now, Joey Badass.
Okay.
Yeah, man. That dude is crazy.
So he was really hyped about this cosign from Kendrick, and rightfully so. Although Joey was an underground artist at the time, he received nominations that year for Rookie of the Year and Best New Artist, with Kendrick ultimately taking home the win. I mean, again, he was really, really young here, and if you look at who he was up against in 2013, 2013 was actually a really good year for hip-hop. And although Kendrick was a superstar, it wasn't uncommon to hear legends place these guys in the same category due to what they represented artistically.
New rappers like Kendrick Lamar and Joey Bad, and I'm hearing a lot of good stuff.
Talk to Joey, Earl, Kendrick, Cole, gatekeepers of flow. They are extensions of instinctual soul.
And getting this sort of feedback from people like Q-Tip, this is invaluable for both of these guys. As we fast forward to 2015, Ebro of Hot 97 was talking about Kendrick's single I, claiming that he felt the record should have got a bigger push from radio because it was an overwhelmingly positive song, and Joey weighed in on this.
I've had an issue with this, that Kendrick record that he just put out, I Love Myself, right? Which I thought should have been a humongous record for him. Hip-hop did not support him.
I listened to that, I started dancing like an old man and all that, you know what I mean?
But now, where's that record at right now?
But why do you think it wasn't embraced like
It's on my phone, it's on my playlist.
And I agree, I loved that record. I loved it when it came out, and I still love it. That year, both MCs were on tour, and when they crossed paths, they took this photo, and the following year, Joey teamed up with TDE's Schoolboy Q for his Blank Face World Tour.
I already met like some of my favorite rappers, you know what I mean? Within a year.
Like I said, he's a close friend of the guys over at TDE. There's a whole mutual respect there. Joey would also reveal in a GQ interview that one of his favorite tracks to smoke weed to was Kendrick's Poor Man's Dream. I chose this one because the hook has this airy smoker's cloud type of vibe. The lyrics are smoke good, eat good, live good, so it's a perfect fit.
Smoke good, eat good, live good.
To end off the year, Kendrick got a big cosign from Barack Obama as he announced that How Much a Dollar Costs was his favorite track of the year, while Obama's daughter showed her support for Joey Badass by wearing a pro-era t-shirt.
And I started reading the comments, and in the caption, I was just like, oh, are you serious?
However, in 2016, Joey found himself embroiled in a very personal battle with Troy Ave.
I wake and tell shit, spit the raw shit, stop, use a filthy backpack, rapper out of thrift shop.
I'm a fan of this record. I played it a lot, and I'm a fan of Troy Ave, but I feel like he took it too far. on this record. I really do. On the record, Troy Ave would poke fun at the fact that Joey's group partner and close friend, Capital Steez, committed suicide.
Title like a friend, here's a casket. I'm really killing shit. You niggas killing yourself off the roof. Stand clear, yo. This nigga trying to fly. He think he a superhero. Splat man.
Then there's the fact that he shot the video on a rooftop. And if you know the story, you'll know why that's very disrespectful.
Talking on the guard like we gon' let it slide when he did more dead than you could ever do alive. Now I won't even lie, I can agree with but in the darkest times, there's still a brighter side. You took a leap of faith and only brighten his light. You took a cheap shot at hate and only shorten your life. Difference between you and him is that he lives forever. You be the first to die who nobody ever remembers. Cause the city never needed you ever. You committed career suicide to make New York better.
Shortly after, Joey would state in an interview at the Breakfast Club that artists like himself and Kendrick were bringing lyrical hip-hop back.
I said, you've always said you want to bring lyrical hip-hop back to the forefront. You think it's come back?
Oh, it's come back.
Absolutely.
You know, with artists like myself, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole.
Yeah.
And following with the theme of complimenting Kendrick and showing respect to his artistry, Joey had a whole lot of positive things to say in a Montreality interview.
He represents, you know, real artists. He represents real artistry. He represents poetry. You know what I mean? There's a long list.
And look, if you're a fan of Montreality, I'm gonna leave a link in the description for these cereal boxes. It's like a custom cereal. I love shit like this, right? This is just really dope. Just cool to have around if you like collecting stuff, and it's a good way to support them. I'll leave it in the description. However, the similarities between these two artists would really shine in 2017, as both were slated to drop projects on the exact same day, April 7th. Joey came with All-American Badass.
Obama just wasn't enough, I need some more closure. And Donald Trump is not equipped to take this country over.
And Kendrick was supposed to drop Damn on the exact same day, April 7th, but he pushed it out by a week.
We all woke up trying to tune to the daily news, looking for confirmation, hoping the election wasn't true.
You gotta keep in mind, Trump had just taken office during this time, and they both had comments about this, with Joey saying, yes, there's a popularized douchebag in office right now, but he's only making these problems worse. He's not the reason for the problem. And Kendrick would say, we're all baffled. It's something that completely disregards our moral compass. It's just building up the fire in me. And again, the reason why I show you guys things like this is because I feel like this is all important for context. Hip-hop has been inherently political since its earliest days, and now we're in a sea of salacious content, misogyny, and materialism, and the genre has very few people like a Joey Badass or a Kendrick Lamar who will actually speak on things that are impacting their communities. These guys are not just conscious, they're both socially conscious, and in today's landscape, this is rare, and more of it's needed.
Donald Trump is a chump, know how we feel, punk.
And if you got the guts, scream, fuck Donald Trump.
In 2018, Joey would drop some fire over J-Rock and Kendrick's track, King's Dead, and again, he lets everyone know that he's the best lyricist.
Lyrically, no one ahead of me. I can die today, still leave a legacy that you can never be.
Coming into 2022, Joey had dropped his album 2000, and on the intro, he claims that himself, Cole, and Kendrick are the best out.
Who the best MCs? Kenny, Joey, and Cole, the Holy Trinity.
Notice how he took Drake out of the big three and he put himself in there. And when Mr. Morale dropped by Kendrick, Joey would send out a tweet saying, well done, K-Dot. And that's not the only praise that he had for the album. In an interview with Ringer, Joey said, it's funny, I was working on an album that was similar to Kendrick's because I also went through the whole therapy thing. The concept that I was going for was I was going to be speaking to my therapist throughout the whole album. It's interesting. Me and Kendrick, we've got this interesting relationship. I know he feels it too. We spoke on it over the years. Great minds think alike. So you see what I'm saying? These guys were both thinking about doing a therapy style album. Joey didn't do it. But like I said, these guys are more alike than they are different. In 2023, Kendrick would win Double XL's Lyricist of the Year, but again, they made sure to mention that he was up against MCs like Joey Badass. Joey Badass has been in the conversation about lyricists. He has. And now we enter into 2024, and as you guys know, this is when the beef between Drake and Kendrick kicked off. And if there's one thing that can be said about this beef, is that it really gave the genre a massive spark. Before the beef, we were at the point where a lot of people were saying, hip-hop's not competitive anymore. Hip-hop has lost that competitive edge that it was known for. At the start of the beef, on the same day J. Cole released 7 Minute Drill, Joey jumped on Twitter to remind everyone of his clapback at Kendrick. He shared a link to his Control response with the caption, "Never forget. Remember me? You didn't respond." And it's honestly not that surprising when you look at Joey's writing throughout his career, and especially in recent years.
Tell me who won, watch me turn them to a memory. I am not the one, I'm just the one that they pretend to be. Cause any competition get demolished. These niggas know my shit hit the hardest, to be honest. Alligator jaw saying ain't nobody greater. I bow my head and do my numbers like it's nothing major. Over time I've been too humble, time to up the wager.
That Make Me Feel record is one of my favorite records of the last decade, 100%.
Niggas know who great the fucking favorite, I'm the greatest, they never could the greatest, and I did it with no major I.
I'm the G-O-A-T when it's close to the dawn. They only make legends where I'm from.
So they only make legends where I'm from. Now I wanted to point this one out because a line like this one has a very similar energy, which feeds into why Joey is sending shots at Kendrick on this upcoming record that we're gonna look at.
Try to slap me out, I wipe his nose like his shit was stuffed, the jig is up. The big dog, you just a little pup, nigga, what?
Now, I found this one extremely interesting because this record dropped 9 days after Kendrick's verse on Like That, and it's here where Joey references a track by Drake, a track by Kendrick, a track by Benny, which featured Wayne, and Joey's coming with this very aggressive energy here.
Keep it heated tuck for niggas sneaking up, he think he tough. If he try my hand, then I'ma call his bluff.
This is definitely a very interesting verse, fresh off the Like That record.
Done playing games with you niggas, ain't letting nothing slide, what's the vibe?
So the ongoing theme in Joey's music in recent years is 1, nobody can fuck with me, which is how every rapper should feel, and 2, he seems to be sick and tired of getting overlooked. I can't hardly blame him. I don't blame him for feeling that way. So coming off the Kendrick and Drake beef, Joey seems to have caught the buzz. He's inspired to compete, he's looking for a challenge, and he made that pretty clear on his recent release, The Ruler's Back. But first, let's take a look at the title. The Ruler's Back was originally the title of a classic Slick Rick track back in 1988.
The Ruler's Back.
And honestly, I feel like every hip-hop fan should know this album. This is an album that you can really turn on at any time. It's great for a drive in the car, barbecue on a hot day, smoke session. It was really the pinnacle of storytelling in hip-hop at that time. And on this track, Rick is really inserting his dominance in the game. He's making it clear that he is in a lane of his own and that he is the ruler of MCing. He is the king.
Well, they're biting what I'm writing, God is great being the king.
And this is why I put that brief history of competing in hip-hop in the beginning of the video, for people who don't understand that it really is fundamental, and that's why Joey's making this reference. And Jay-Z would also pay homage in 2001 with one of my personal favorite album intros, where Hov recycles the title again.
Back, niggas.
So on this track, Jay-Z is really bringing an evolved form of what we heard on that old Slick Rick record.
There's a lot of rappers out there trying to sound like Jay-Z.
Hov is talking his shit, very braggadocious. He was beefing with a bunch of people from his own city at that time. The King of New York status was really being fought for at this time, and Hov is really staking his claim as an MC, just like Slick Rick did all those years earlier. It's an interesting reference for Joey because Hov had subliminal shots for Nas on this track.
You got a couple of beans and you don't have a clue. Your situation is leak.
So Nas had a freestyle dissing Hov, and Hov is flipping one of his lines here.
Rip the freeway, shoot through Memphis with money bags, stop in Philly, order cheesesteaks and eat beans fast.
Nas goes fucking crazy on this freestyle too, like so slept on. I'll link it below.
Fistful of dollars in the dice game, guard, the ice king guard, the black Christ, elegant stance, clothes fit me like a crime boss, the medicine man.
He goes stupid on that freestyle. Like, I don't know how people say Jay-Z won. I don't get it. And of course, the very next track on this album for Hov is Takeover, and this is where he hits Nas directly.
You ain't live it, you witnessed it from your folks' pad. You scribbled in your notepad and created your life.
This title for Joey is perfect because he's paying homage to the competitive spirit of hip-hop through two East Coast legends, and at the same time, he's claiming his stake as an MC. The reference here is perfect because he's from the Mecca. He's from where it all started. Like, he's really passionate about that.
It feels so good to be back, man. I'm back, baby.
So again, following with the title of the record, Joey directly quotes Jay-Z.
Feels good.
And Joey did have a little bit of a hiatus. He didn't really do much of his own music in the last couple years, but this dude has been constantly working. I hear people saying that he was just acting, but this guy was doing way more than just acting. He had a full-on residency at a university where he was doing lectures and talking to the youth. He's done magazines, he's done modeling, he was he was working.
I could get you niggas acclimated quickest rules to this shit. Hold up.
So again, it seems as though Joey is referencing another East Coast giant, as this appears to be a reference to Biggie. So this is the fourth East Coast legend reference now. However, it's here where he also references Kendrick's track from Section 80, Hold Up.
Hold up, hold up, hold up. It's rules to this shit, hold up.
Make no mistake, this track is directed at Kendrick Lamar and no one else.
I got murals in my city, fuck a nomination.
So first off, Joey is saying that even without the awards, he's still respected enough to have a mural of his own. And I also found it interesting that he's talking about murals in his city fresh off that Biggie reference, as they're both from Brooklyn and they both have murals in Brooklyn. I also think about MF Doom in this case because he was never nominated for any sort of award, but is placed in such high regard within the culture. And just think about it, who else said there's rules to this shit?
There's rules to this shit, fools dare care.
Doom is also one of Joey's biggest influences, and he also has a mural in Brooklyn. The Doom reference makes the most sense here, as he typically despised corporate hip-hop. He completely personified art over mainstream popularity and what it meant to be an underground hip-hop artist, and Joey is likely doing this to poke at Kendrick's mainstream industry presence.
It's rules to this shit, hold up. I got murals in my city, fuck a nomination.
And of course, that's the tie-in to this.
Whack the murals out, but it ain't no legends if my legend ends.
It's here where Kendrick is referencing how one of his murals was vandalized, while claiming that if he were gone, there would be no legends left, nobody worth remembering, so therefore, no murals required. And this is the line that I think Joey is responding to, where he's saying, I'm already a legend in my city. I already got a mural. However, I do find it interesting that Joey says fuck a nomination, which by definition is when someone puts your name forward for an award or for recognition. When we look back to Kendrick's Control verse, this was one of the things that Joey had issues with.
Heard they was looking for war, but ain't declaring me.
Kendrick metaphorically nominated a whole bunch of rappers when he named them on that track, but left Joey out. This is where his follow-up line makes even more sense to me.
This for every time they left me out the conversation.
And what I found even more interesting is that Joey had a very similar line back in 2020, except this time he singles out the Grammys in particular.
This is that, who your top 5 conversation, type of rap that, fuck a Grammy nomination.
Who's in your top 5 conversation, fuck a Grammy nomination. And that's not the first time he's mentioned the top 5. As a matter of fact, it was just a few months after the beef where he brought it up again. Just a little prediction. I think Joey Badass is going to have a big year in 2025 for music. I think he's going to go all in. I think he's motivated, and I think he's talented enough to make it happen.
I'm back by popular demand and world domination.
Joey makes a reference to another East Coast legend here, this time the Curtis Blow's album, Back by Popular Demand. There's also the fact that the phrase back by popular demand has been used by Joey multiple times over the years.
Back by popular demand, I'm the man. I'm back by popular demand and on that time. And
then we've got the reference to world domination, which is another track from Joey. But if you weren't convinced with my MF Doom reference from just 2 bars earlier, guess who produced this track?
They come out imputed with futures and blueprints and Illmatic.
His whole career is dedicated to repping the East Coast fully. And if we're going to talk about Joey being backed by popular demand and world domination, what do you think Kendrick has been doing? The face of hip-hop right now, the king of hip-hop right now, is not from the East Coast. He is from Compton. the run that Kendrick's been on, the dominance, this seems to be one of the biggest motivations for Joey. The East Coast needs someone to step up. So like that's like the popular demand on that side. Like someone got to take a hold of this thing.
I'm finna bomb on niggas' plans fresh off my vacation.
So again, Joey was on a bit of a hiatus. He was on a little bit of a vacation from music, but now he's back dropping bombs. And remember when Kendrick said this.
Flex to drop a bomb on this shit. So many bombs ring the alarm like Vietnam on this shit. So many bombs make Farrakhan think that's a dime in this bitch.
I mean, he started off the verse referencing an iconic New York DJ, and then just a couple bars later, claims to be the king of New York.
I was sitting back, watching from an eagle eye, trying not to react. Just give me one reason.
So an eagle is an apex predator, meaning they have no real competition as they are at the top of the food chain. An eagle's eye is sharp. It's actually 4 to 8 times stronger than that of a human's, and Joey is basically saying he's just waiting for his time to strike. This is of course also a reference to being on a plane at a much higher altitude. I believe Joey's talking about the beef between the big three because he was quick to bring up his control response that Kendrick seemingly ignored. It sounds like Joey was doing everything in his power to hold back from jumping in on that beef. He's been saying this for a while. Like, I think he's itching to go at it with someone in like a top spot.
Too much West Coast dick licking.
So again, we got Joey referencing Jay-Z as he had the exact same words back in '96 on Reasonable Doubt.
Too much West Coast dick licking.
It was just 1 year prior where Pac pumped out hits like Dear Mama, So Many Tears, and Temptations. The West Coast also had big time smashes like I Got 5 on It and Gangsta's Paradise. Then in '96, Pac left that jail cell and in just 2 weeks recorded All Eyes on Me, which gave us California Love, How Do You Want It, I Ain't Mad at Ya, 2 of America's Most Wanted. That is a lot of hits from one person in a very short time span. Death Row brought a whole new energy to the West Coast, and now every magazine had Pac's face on it. In the case of Hove, he wasn't even Jay-Z yet. Reasonable Doubt didn't pop until like a year later. Just like Joey, Hove was an underground artist representing Brooklyn. So there's some parallels, right? They're both from Brooklyn, and they're both staring at this West Coast buzz. Like, it's right in their faces. Now, as far as the West Coast, if we're going to talk about praise, Schoolboy Q, Tyler the Creator, and Kendrick all had projects that made it on the top of most lists for 2024. GNX had a lot of West Coast representation, and some of those tracks performed really well. We also can't forget Doechii, who isn't from the West Coast, but she is a TDE prodigy, and she got a lot of love too.
I'm hearing niggas throwing rocks, really ain't shit sticking.
This could be in reference to Drake and how anything he dished out towards Kendrick seemed to just bounce right off him. Literally nothing that Drake levied against Kendrick stuck. Nothing.
This that black Air Force energy coming out your speaker.
As we progress into the verse, it only becomes more obvious. Joey references Kendrick's untitled track, which many labeled Watch the Party Die. This was a track that had a pair of heavily worn black Air Force Ones, likely symbolizing the war that Kendrick was in with Drake.
I'm out to reach your arms too short to box the Elohim.
In the first line, Joey quotes J. Cole's diss to Kendrick from 7 Minute Drill.
Your arms might be too short to box with the God.
However, he also references the word Elohim, which we heard from Kendrick on 616 in LA.
The Elohim KTW.
Look, stop trying to dress it up and change the narrative. Joey Badass wants to smoke with Kendrick.
I stand tall in this rap thing like Yao Ming and won't stop till the crowd sing when I'm crowned king.
So again, extremely obvious who Joey's talking about here. Not only is he claiming that Kendrick can't go toe-to-toe with them, but it's another play on Kendrick's height, hence the reference to Yao Ming.
This ain't boom bap, nigga. This that boom bow bing. We could run a fair one.
Like I said, this whole second verse and a big part of this record is directed at Kendrick Lamar, as it's here where he references Peekaboo.
Bing, bop, boom, 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 bop, bam.
Boom Bow Bing is also extremely specific for Joey, as this was also used by another Compton native, YG.
Boom, bow, bing, nigga on sight.
This is a really interesting reference from Joey, and here's my best interpretation. On Peekaboo, Kendrick's sequence of ad-libs seems to be done to just confuse people, as he follows up by stating that he's saying things that people just wouldn't understand.
Boom, bop, bam. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand.
However, in YG's track, it's clear he's talking about fighting.
And if one fight, then we all fight. Boom, bop, bing, nigga on sight.
The way that I see this is because Kendrick stated that he was saying things that people wouldn't understand, Joey decided to flip this by quoting another Compton native with something very specific so that in this case, Kendrick would understand. This, of course, could be a reach, but because it's so specific, I had to mention it. It's really interesting because YG claims boom, bow, bing, like we're all getting involved. All of us are jumping in on the fight, right? But Joey claims boom, bow, bing, we could run a fair one, like a one-on-one, right?
And if one fight, then we all fight. Boom, bow, bing, nigga on sight. This that boom, bow, bing, we could run a fair one.
Then there's the fact that YG is a West Side Pyru, which is exactly who Kendrick's affiliated with, right?
I knew some real haters, but I ain't never fear none. Guess it's just the Brooklyn in me, they must not know where I'm from.
So it's here where I believe Joey is referencing Kendrick's track Fear, where he details growing up in Compton, surrounded by gang life, and living with the fear of losing his life.
I probably died from thinking that me and your hood was cool.
Joey's making it clear that he's also from the hood. He grew up around street dudes as well, but claims being from Brooklyn, he never grew up fearing anyone. Again, the big distinction he's making here is that he's from Brooklyn.
Heard that they was looking for me. Okay, tell them here I come. I'm nowhere near done with you, nigga.
Joey ends off the video by jumping into his vehicle with another track playing, which could very well be something he has in the tuck. I don't know if it's a diss track, but he did specifically state that he wasn't done, and it seems clear that he does have something else. And yes, he did just drop another track, but that's not it. He's just playing around. He's waiting for Kendrick. Now, as far as the visuals in this video, it's pretty obvious that Joey is mocking Kendrick's dance from the pop-out, more or less saying, okay, come dance with me, try me. Now, a big question for a lot of people is, why is Joey doing this? Well, it's pretty obvious that he wanted to smoke over a decade ago, and he even brought up his control response at the height of the beef. Kendrick is that guy right now. He's feeling himself heavy. The energy that he came with on GNX says it all. This track from Joey references Nas, Jay-Z, MF Doom, Biggie, Slick Rick, Curtis Blow, a bunch of East Coast legends. Joey is from the Mecca, and the brief history I showed on battling and competition in hip-hop is very important to him. Now, the next thing is, will Kendrick respond? Alright, so I've been seeing people claim there's no way Kendrick's responding. I think they're wrong. I think they're 100% wrong. I'll die on the hill right now. Kendrick will respond to this in some way. There's no fucking way he's gonna stay quiet and not address this. He will have, at a minimum, a subliminal. And sometimes that's all it takes. Maybe Joey will fire on him again. I hear people saying that Joey is not on Kendrick's level. I disagree. If we're talking about lyricism, if we're talking about MCing, he's 100% on Kendrick's level. And if it's not about sales, and it's not about who's the bigger artist, and it's really about the art, he should respond because he respects Joey, and he will. You know, I really want to show the history of battling in the beginning briefly, and just show how competitive hip-hop is, but I also want to show people the similarities between these two artists and what they represent, because I think that's important for context. These guys are cool with each other, but this is hip-hop.
Fuck up. I'm a BK brawler, Marcy Projects, hallway orderer, pure coke copper.